You ever meet someone, or something, that's so chill, so quiet, so perfectly innocent, it almost feels fake? Like, there's no way this creature is really that sweet, that soft, that harmless. Yeah, that was Milo. Now, picture this, a tiny black cat, barely the size of a backpack. His fur. Midnight. Like, actual midnight. No patterns, no white patches, just this silky void that soaked up every bit of light around him. And his eyes. Golden. Not like a soft, warm gold either. They were sharp, like twin suns burning straight through you. Always calm. Always half-lidded, like he was halfway through a nap and a therapy session he didn't ask for. Milo didn't meow like other cats. He kinda groaned. This low, lazy little noise like he was annoyed that you existed. But in the most charming, old man on a porch kind of way. He blinked in slow motion. He moved like he had nowhere to be, ever. And he had this ability to just appear in places without making a sound. You'd be brushing your teeth, turn around, and boom, Milo. Staring from the doorway like some kind of velvet gargoyle. And the way he looked at you. Not like a pet. Not even like a cat. Like a roommate. One that judged your life choices. And maybe knew a little too much. Everyone who met him had the same reaction. Ah, he's so chill. Or, he looks like a little shadow. And Clara, his owner, she believed it too. At first. She figured she'd gotten lucky. While other people had cats who knocked over cups or sprinted across the room at 3 a.m. like they were possessed, Milo just existed. He'd sprawl on her keyboard when she was trying to type, or curl up in the bathtub for no reason. But he never caused drama. Or so she thought. What people didn't realize, what Clara didn't realize, is that Milo wasn't lazy. He was strategic. He watched. He waited. He studied. That cat was playing a long game. And the scariest part? He was good at it. At 22, Clara was balancing her life on a knife's edge. She lived in one of those apartments that looked dreamy on Instagram but felt like a reality check in real life. Tiny kitchen. Loud pipes. The kind of place where the Wi-Fi cut out every time someone flushed a toilet in the building. The rent. Criminal. The view. A brick wall with half a graffiti tag and a dying plant dangling from someone else's window. But hey, she had her place. It smelled like burnt coffee and lavender candles and independence. Between uni lectures that drained her brain, 2 part-time jobs that barely covered rent, and a side hustle drawing digital portraits until 3 a.m., Clara was stretched so thin she felt translucent. Her days were a blur of bus rides, deadlines, cheap ramen, and the occasional mental breakdown in the shower. A cat was not on the agenda. But life doesn't really care about your agenda. She hadn't even meant to go into the shelter. Her best friend, Amira, was the one dragging her there. "I need a dog," Amira had said. "Something small. Preferably stupid." Clara laughed. "So, basically a golden retriever with a TikTok account." Exactly. They walked in and were immediately hit with the smell of sawdust, animal fur, and that weird lemon cleaning spray every shelter uses. Dogs barked from the back like it was a frat party. Amira disappeared down the hall. Clara, distracted, wandered toward the cat section. Glass enclosures lined the walls, each with a curled-up blur of fluff inside. Some meowed. Some paced. A few stared at her like they knew things about her that not even her therapist did. And then, she saw him. If you are enjoying this, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Let's continue. Milo was curled up in the corner of his crate, tucked into himself like a shadow having a nap. Sleek black fur, one bent whisker, and the air of someone who absolutely did not want to be bothered. But just as Clara walked past, he opened one eye. Just one. And let out this long, slow, judgmental mare. It wasn't a cute meow. It sounded like a grumble from the back of an old man's throat. Like he'd just woken up from a dream he didn't like and wanted everyone to know it. Clara froze. She tilted her head. You sound like a grumpy old man. Milo blinked slowly, like yeah, and? The volunteer noticed and smiled as they walked over. You've caught his attention. That's rare. Clara raised an eyebrow. Is he always like this? Oh yeah. Super chill. Kind of a weirdo, though. Doesn't really play. Doesn't like being picked up. But we keep finding stuff in his bed. Stuff that isn't his. Clara tilted her head. Like what? The volunteer held up a clipboard. Let's see, shoelaces, a silver bracelet, one of my pens, a spoon. A spoon, Clara. Where did he even get it? Honestly, I think he's a thief. Clara looked at Milo. He was grooming his paw like this entire conversation bored him. Weird's fine, she said without even thinking. So am I. The volunteer grinned. You want to meet him? Clara nodded, already unlocking her heart like an idiot. 5 hours later, Milo was curled up in her canvas tote bag, glaring at the world like it had offended him personally. Clara paid the adoption fee, signed the papers, and took home the strangest cat she'd ever met. No dramatic music. No slow-motion reunion. Just a girl with no time and a cat with no patience. And neither of them knew it yet. But this was the beginning of a very strange friendship. For the first few weeks, Milo was exactly what Clara had expected, and honestly, exactly what she needed. He was chill. Like, disturbingly chill. He didn't meow much. Didn't scratch furniture. Didn't knock things off shelves like some feline anarchist. Instead, he'd curl up on the windowsill like a goth gargoyle, soaking up sunlight and silently judging the pigeons outside. Sometimes, he'd headbutt Clara's leg when she got home, then flop dramatically onto the floor like his day had been so exhausting. He'd nap in her laundry basket, stretch out on her open textbooks, and fall asleep draped across her tablet while she was working on art commissions. He was a vibe. A sleepy, sleek, slightly aloof vibe. But then, things started vanishing. At first, Clara didn't even notice. It was little stuff. A few hair ties. Whatever. They always disappear anyway. Probably lost in the couch cushions or eaten by the washing machine. Then it was her favorite pen. Then one of her keys, just one, which somehow made it worse. Then a single silver earring she'd worn the night before to Amira's birthday dinner. Then, a spoon. Not even a fancy one. Just one of her 4 mismatched, slightly bent spoons from the charity shop. Still, it was enough to be annoying. She liked that spoon. It was the one with the weird little tree engraved on the handle. She was down to 3 now. 2, technically, because one was in the sink, waiting to be washed, and she couldn't face the dishes yet. If you are enjoying this, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Let's continue. Clara blamed herself, at first. She was overworked. Always tired. Half of her belongings lived in a kind of organized chaos anyway. Textbooks stacked on the microwave, mugs holding art supplies, a sock living rent-free under the coffee table for reasons unknown. She chalked it up to stress. Sleep deprivation. Classic student life. Until one specific morning flipped that narrative. She was running late for her shift at the cafe. Like, already should be on the bus late. She'd pulled a near-all-nighter trying to finish a digital portrait for a client who kept sending just one more tweak messages at 2 a.m., and now she was barely conscious, juggling toast and mascara and a lukewarm cup of coffee. She reached for her staff ID, the lanyard with the bright red tag she always left on the kitchen counter next to her phone. Gone. Clara froze. Checked the counter. Then the floor. Then the sofa. Under the sofa. Behind the toaster. Inside the fridge, because, hey, weird things happen when you're half asleep. Still nothing. Milo, she muttered, glancing at him. He was curled up on the radiator like a bread loaf, completely unbothered. She was 20 minutes late by the time she gave up. No ID meant her boss would be extra snarky. She grabbed her jacket and keys, only after a 5-minute key hunt, and sprinted out the door with a string of half-swears trailing behind her. That evening, Clara came home wrecked. Feet aching. Hair a mess. Soul slightly crushed. If you are enjoying this, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Let's continue. She dumped her bag on the floor, ignored the mountain of laundry begging for attention, and collapsed face-first onto her bed like she was auditioning for a sleep-deprived ghost role. Thud. Oh. There was something hard under her pillow. She groaned, sat up, reached under, and pulled out her missing staff ID. She blinked at it. There was no logical reason it should have been there. She never put anything under her pillow, let alone something she'd frantically searched for that morning. It wasn't just weird. It was deliberate. She glanced across the room. Milo was perched on her desk, completely still. He wasn't napping. Wasn't blinking. Just watching her. Those golden eyes locked on hers. Calm. Patient. A little smug. Like he knew exactly what she'd just found. Like he put it there. Clara narrowed her eyes. Did you seriously just gaslight me? Milo blinked slowly. The audacity. Then, as if to fully commit to the bit, he yawned so wide it looked like he was trying to unhinge his jaw and casually flopped onto his side, one paw dangling off the desk like he had zero regrets. Clara stared for a moment longer. Then laughed. What are you, a sleep-deprived student in a catsuit? But that night, she couldn't stop thinking about it. Not just the lanyard. The pattern. The weird, small disappearances. The spoon. The single earring. Her pen. A scrunchie that somehow ended up in the plant pot on the balcony. She just assumed it was her fault. But now, she was starting to suspect Milo wasn't just weird. He was strategic. And maybe a little bit evil. But, like, in a very cute way. That night with the lanyard didn't just weird Clara out, it unlocked something. For the first time, she looked at Milo and thought, what are you actually doing when I'm not looking? Not in the cute, oh, I wonder what my cat dreams about way. No. This was more, am I living with a tiny, furry criminal mastermind? So, like any overworked, mildly unhinged uni student with a growing sense of paranoia and way too much caffeine in her system, Clara decided to investigate. She grabbed an old sketchbook, flipped it to a blank page, and titled it, Milo's Crimes. A detailed log of suspicious activity and stolen goods. AKA, how I lost control of my life. It started small. She logged every time something went missing, nothing huge, just things she knew she'd had the day before and suddenly couldn't find. Her first entry was casual. April 2nd. Lost, silver ring, the one I wear when I'm anxious. Found, inside the peace lilies pot. Milo was sitting next to it, purring. Coincidence? Doubtful. By the second week, things were escalating. April 8th. Missing, USB stick with portfolio sketches. Found, inside my left boot. Not plugged in, just resting. Milo stared at me the whole time I took it out, like I'd interrupted his performance art piece. April 12th. Missing, Tampon. Found, shredded under the bed. Not discussed. We don't talk about it. April 19th. Stolen, oversized hoodie. Location, dragged across the flat and crumpled dramatically in the corner next to his litter box. Notes, is this a protest? A statement? A gift? I don't understand this man. Clara started calling him the furry klepto. She'd look at him and go, "All right, sticky paws, what'd you take this time?" And Milo? He'd just squint at her like she was being dramatic, then yawn and walk away with that slow, sauntering tail flick that screamed you'll never prove anything. But nothing prepared her for the stash. It was early May, a Sunday morning, and Clara had finally carved out time for a deep clean. She was feeling productive, music blasting, hair in a messy bun, hoodie covered in dust and cat hair, holding a vacuum like a weapon. The place was already cleaner than it had been in months. But when she moved the big armchair in the corner, the one Milo liked to nap behind, she found something that made her stop cold. At first, it looked like a pile of fluff. Then she looked closer. And goodness gracious. If you are enjoying this, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Let's continue. It wasn't just fluff. It was a collection. Tucked neatly into the shadowy space between the wall and the baseboard was a weird, perfectly chaotic little nest of stuff. Hair ties. Pens. Crumpled receipts. A spoon, the same spoon. That missing silver ring. 2 earrings that didn't match. A crumpled bus ticket from February. 1 cat toy, untouched. A rolled-up sock. Her old AirPods case. 3 plastic straws. A keychain. A crumpled napkin with a phone number on it she didn't even remember getting. And, right in the center like some kind of crown jewel, her USB stick. Clara stared at it for a full 30 seconds. Then at Milo, who had padded into the room behind her like he knew she'd found it. He sat, licked his paw, glanced sideways at the pile. No shame. No guilt. Just a vibe of yeah, that's mine now. Milo, Clara whispered, crouching. Are you building a shrine? To me? Or are you planning my downfall? Milo sneezed. Loudly. Then plopped down on her clean laundry pile like the absolute menace he was. Clara started laughing. Like, full-on laughter, tired, borderline unhinged, what even is my life kind of laughing. Because this wasn't just some random mess. This was intentional. Organized chaos. A treasure hoard, if you saw it through a certain lens. Milo didn't just steal stuff. He curated. And weirdly, Clara respected that. She didn't clean it up. Not all of it, anyway. She took back her USB, the spoon, and the ring. But the rest? She left it right where it was. Like a tiny, furry art installation titled The Secret Life of a Cat with Too Much Free Time. She even added a note to her sketchbook. May 7th. Found, the hideout. Location, behind armchair. Items collected, 23. Items returned, 3. Psychological profile of suspect, highly intelligent. Possibly emotionally manipulative. Extremely fluffy. And under that, in parentheses, I think he's winning. It happened on a lazy Thursday afternoon, the kind of day that starts out feeling harmless, but slowly spirals into weird territory when you're left alone for too long. Clara was supposed to be writing her final essay on visual semiotics in modern animation. Instead, she was rolling marbles across the kitchen floor. Look. It wasn't entirely procrastination. She'd found the jar of marbles while clearing out the junk drawer and figured, why not give Milo something to chase? Naturally, he ignored them completely. Because of course he did. But then one marble took a weird bounce, veered toward the kitchen cupboard, and vanished beneath the sink. Not rolled. Vanished. There wasn't even the clink of it hitting the back wall. It just stopped. Clara paused, blinking. What? She got down on her hands and knees, opened the cupboard doors, and stared at the tangle of pipes and cleaning supplies. Nothing unusual, until she noticed the thin wooden panel running along the bottom. Wobbly. A little warped from old water damage. She pressed on it. It shifted. Her heart skipped. She pulled it loose. And behind that panel, in the dark little space between the cabinet wall and the back of the sink unit, she found the vault. Calling it a stash felt insulting. This wasn't some random mess Milo had swept away on a whim. No. This was intentional. Calculated. Practically curated. The space was barely the size of a showbox, but packed like a tiny museum of her lost life. 3 pens, her best ones, the fancy fine liners she only used for commissioned work. Her silver ring. The one she'd nearly cried over when she thought she'd lost it at a cafe. A spoon. The spoon. A single sock from a matching set she hadn't seen in months. A wrinkled £10 note, folded into quarters like it had been through 5 laundry cycles and 1 existential crisis. A pale blue button she didn't recognize, maybe from a jacket she used to own. And right in the center, sitting like a cursed relic, her old USB stick, covered in dust. Clara stared. Milo, of course, was already behind her, silent as a shadow, tail curled neatly around his paws, eyes half-lidded like he was pleased she'd finally found it. He purred, low and steady, like he'd just delivered a TED talk on chaos and was waiting for applause. Clara didn't say anything at first. She just sat there, on the floor, half-twisted under the sink, surrounded by pipes and shadows, staring at this tiny, secret world her cat had created. It was weirdly emotional. Not in a sentimental way, but in a what does this mean kind of way. Like stumbling across a diary you didn't know someone was keeping about you. Because that's what it felt like. Everything in there had some kind of connection to her. Not just objects, but pieces of her daily routine. The little things she touched, wore, used without thinking. Stuff she'd long forgotten. All preserved. Hidden. By her cat. Clara turned her head slowly to look at him. Are you building a shrine? Milo blinked at her. Slowly. Then sneezed. She pulled the vault's contents out one by one, laying them on a towel like crime scene evidence. Milo watched, expression unreadable. Judgy. Smug. Mysterious. Okay, she said aloud, organizing the pile. Either you're nesting, you're a tiny magpie with fur, or you're a genius-level sociopath. Milo licked his paw. She narrowed her eyes. You can't just steal my life and put it in a box. He yawned. Then, slowly, padded over to the vault, sniffed the now empty space, and, Clara swore this was intentional, looked at her like she just violated some unspoken sacred agreement. You're mad I found it, she said. You're actually mad. He flicked his tail. Turned. Walked away. If you are enjoying this, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Let's continue. Later that night, Clara added a new page to the notebook. May 23rd, discovery, the vault. Location, behind fake panel under kitchen sink. Contents, 7 items, possibly more prior to my discovery. Emotional damage caused, 8/10. Milo's reaction, deep betrayal. And underneath that, she added a new theory. Is Milo protecting me? Or tracking me? Why these specific objects? Does he know what they mean to me? What happens if I build a counterstash? The thought made her shiver. She glanced toward the living room. Milo was curled up on the windowsill, staring out into the dark, unmoving. Like a little cat god surveying his domain. Like he knew she was writing about him. If you are enjoying this, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Let's continue. After discovering the vault, Clara thought she could outsmart him. She bought drawer organizers, labeled storage bins, even a little fireproof lockbox she kept under her bed for essentials, USBs, ID, emergency cash, sentimental jewelry. She started living like someone prepping for a cat-fueled heist at any moment. But none of it worked. Because Milo adapted. He upped his game like a furry, four-legged supervillain evolving through levels of chaos. At first, it was mildly amusing. A necklace mysteriously disappeared from her vanity and reappeared, days later, tucked into an unopened box of tea bags. Not even the front one. The one at the back. Then her favorite lip balm went missing. Weeks passed. She assumed she'd lost it during a late night at the studio. Until one morning, rushing to get dressed, she slipped on a sneaker and felt something weird underfoot. Lifted the insole. There it was. A tube of slightly squished, minty betrayal. And then it got weirder. Clara was vacuuming behind the radiator when she found something wedged between the metal and the wall. A soft, leather-bound book with her name scrawled on the inside cover. Her old journal. Not just any old journal. The one from last winter. The one she'd poured into when she was completely heartbroken over her first big breakup. The kind of heartbreak that makes you delete playlists and question your existence at 3 a.m. She thought she'd lost that journal in a move. Thought maybe it had gotten thrown out by accident. But no. Milo had taken it. And hidden it. Like it mattered. That's when Clara knew. Milo wasn't just stealing for fun, or because he was bored. He wasn't hoarding random junk like a raccoon in a hoodie. He was curating. He was collecting her. Tiny pieces of her life. Her scent. Her memories. And for the first time, she wondered. Was it love? Or was it obsession? Then came that night. The one that hit like a freight train. A brutal critique from her professor, something about her concept being uninspired and immature, followed by a shift at the cafe where her boss yelled at her in front of customers for something she didn't even do. And then, as a final punch to the gut, an email with the grade from her latest assignment, a C+. Clara had worked on that piece for days. She thought it was one of her best. By the time she got home, she was shaking. She kicked off her shoes, dropped her bag, and collapsed face-first onto her bed. And cried. Not pretty tears. We're talking snot, muffled sobs into the pillow, shoulders trembling until her whole body hurt. That quiet, lonely kind of crying where everything feels pointless and small. She didn't even notice that Milo wasn't on the bed with her. Not at first. 2 minutes later, she felt a tiny thump near her head. She lifted her face from the pillow, eyes swollen and red, and there he was. Milo. Sitting calmly by her pillow, tail curled around him like a comma in a sentence she didn't know she was writing. In front of him, slightly damp from his mouth, was a worn, familiar object. Her sketchbook. But not the one she was using now. No, this was the first one. The one she'd filled that summer after high school when she decided, this is it. This is what I want to do with my life. The sketchbook with the half-finished drawings. The one with dreamscapes and doodles of her favorite album lyrics. The one that smelled faintly of sunscreen and midnight anxiety. Milo nudged it toward her gently with his nose. Then curled up beside it. Didn't purr. Didn't meow. Just Saturday. Like he knew. Like he was saying, "You're still that girl. Don't forget." Clara stared at him, stunned. Then, out of nowhere, she laughed, sharp and shaky, tear-streaked but real. "You little thief," she whispered, voice cracking. She reached out and ran her fingers over the soft, dusty cover. "You remembered." That night, she didn't move the sketchbook. She left it right there on her pillow, beside her head. And when she finally drifted off to sleep, eyes puffy, heart a little lighter, Milo stayed curled up beside her, guarding it, guarding her. The morning light crept in through the blinds, casting soft shadows across Clara's apartment. It was quiet, almost too quiet. Milo was curled up in his usual spot on the windowsill, his yellow eyes reflecting the soft glow of the day. But Clara wasn't focused on the peaceful scene in front of her. No, her mind was still racing. She had just found the stash behind the kitchen sink. The vault. A small, secret space filled with things that should never have been hidden, things that she had lost or thought she'd misplaced. Pens, a ring, a spoon, a crumpled 10-pound note, and, of course, her USB stick. But it wasn't just the objects that mattered now. It was the sudden realization that Milo, her strange, mischievous, and almost unnervingly perceptive cat, had been gathering these items. He had been collecting them for some reason. And Clara was finally starting to understand why. Milo wasn't just hoarding things. He was protecting her. The more she thought about it, the clearer it became. The ring she had lost, the keys, the USB stick, it wasn't just random. It was as if he had been watching, observing, and quietly pulling together the pieces of her life. And in doing so, he had shown her something she hadn't realized until now. Milo wasn't just a pet. He was something more. Clara ran her fingers over the photo of the family picnic again, her mind still trying to make sense of it all. Milo had been there for her when no one else had. Through the late-night study sessions, the emotional breakdowns, and the moments of loneliness, he had always been there, offering silent companionship. But now, it seemed, he was offering more than just company. That night, as she lay in bed, Clara felt a weight settle in her chest. It was a mixture of awe, fear, and a sense of belonging. She wasn't sure if she was ready for whatever was coming next, but she knew one thing for certain: Milo wasn't just her pet. He was her protector. He had always been. As Clara drifted off to sleep, she heard a soft purr in the darkness, a purr that felt like a promise. And she finally understood. No matter what came next, she wasn't alone. And really, how many things in your life look ordinary, until you finally see them for what they truly are? Thank you for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. I will see you in the next one.